opening this session today with you.
Good morning. I am Amira Abdel-Aal. Likewise, I'm looking forward to presenting with Troy and Jessica. Thank you.
Hi, and welcome to Session 1, Workshop 2, Now I See It, Video Tools for Formative Assessment and Media Creation. If you're enjoying the learning today, you can pay the joy forward by going to the EdCollab site and finding out how you can donate to the Brotherhood Sisterhood Soul, our adopted charity. Because the EdCollab gathering is a day of free learning, we invite you to donate what you would have spent on coffee, lunch, or even registration for an amazing day like this. Pay it forward to support others. Today, we welcome Troy Hicks and Amira Abdel-Aal for their session, Now I See It, Video Tools for Formative Assessment and Media Creation. Troy Hicks is a professor of English and education at Central Michigan University and focuses his work on the teaching of writing, the intersections of literacy and technology, and more broadly, teacher education and professional development. He's also the author of From Texting to Teaching, as well as many other amazing books for educators. Joining Troy is Amira Abdel-Aal, a member of the Educator Collaborative Network. Amira is a teacher and technology innovation leader at New Horizons School in Irvine, California. And her work focuses on providing culturally sustaining literacy education, complemented by technology and focused on fostering global citizenship. Friends, if you are on Twitter today, you can share your learning using the hashtag #TheEdCollabGathering, a space, and a hashtag 2. Now, let's welcome Troy Hicks and Amira Abdel-Aal to the EdCollab Gathering.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. For today's session, our aim is to provide you with a variety of tools that can be used by teachers, students, and even parents. Being constant consumers of video and social media, we also want to ensure that the students and our communities are given opportunities to evolve from just not only being consumers or active consumers to potentially being reactive viewers of video and proactive creators. So with such tools, we hope students are given a platform to not only engage with the content, where they can explore their creativity, where they can learn to express their authentic views and their authentic selves, for whether it's an audience of just their classroom or an audience that goes beyond and at the global level. We won't be digging deep into each of the tools today, but we hope that we can spark your interest in further exploring tools that may be applicable to your needs. And please feel free to post at any time. Troy will be posting slides with a short link, and you can post your questions if you have any.
Thanks, Amira. Thanks, Jessica, for getting us started. Yeah, without further ado, I'm going to switch over into the Google slide deck. You will see the short links at the top, and I probably will not be hopping back on camera too much, just so we avoid any technical glitches or anything like that. But you can see the short link at the top, and you are more than welcome to join in. You've already got a lot of this background information, but if you need to follow either of us or give us a shout out on Twitter, we'll be monitoring the Twitter stream, and there are our Twitter handles as well if you want to reach us that way. So we are going to be talking today about a number of different things. And Amira, do you want to just briefly give an overview of where we're heading? And your mic might be muted there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go for it.
So some of the tools that we'll be sharing relate to creating screencast explainer videos, webcam recordings, formative assessments and feedback, original video productions, and annotating videos. In addition, we'll be sharing some ways to discover and borrow existing video footage, and hopefully you'll be exposed to a variety of tools where you can find a purpose for your usage and your students.
All right, so very quickly, I just want to kind of talk a little bit about why video. There are a number of reasons that we might do this. And again, as Amira hinted at just a few moments ago, our goal here is to help you today to think about how you as a teacher, as well as your own students, can shift from being more consumers of video to become more creators of video. Certainly, there are times where watching the videos and taking interactive quizzes and having online discussions around the videos and things like that are important. But overall, we're hoping you walk away from the end of this session with an idea about how it is that you can use video in more productive ways. So certainly there are different things that we could ask you to do as you see different things on screen. It immerses you in experiences, engages you. But also, I think it's really important to look at this idea of demonstrating understanding, to have reflective opportunities. And so throughout the morning, we hope that you're going to be thinking like this. What happens when we can use the ideas behind Bloom's taxonomy from that kind of 21st century perspective? Many of you have probably seen an image like this, and this idea of inverting. Certainly in an age where students can ask Google or Siri or Alexa any number of questions that they can find simple answers to, the remembering and understanding is important, but the creating, the evaluating, the critiquing, the analyzing, the creation of video is what we're hoping to get at today. We want you to think about what you can create as an educator, as well as what you can invite your students to create as well. So we kind of start with that as a grounding. We also know that there are going to be lots of questions about copyright. It's a somewhat complicated issue, and one of the leading scholars on copyright and fair use in education circles, both K-12 and higher ed, is Renee Hobbs. Now, we could do a whole 45-minute session just on copyright. However, we don't have a whole lot of time for that. So what we're going to do instead, and again, we'll post these slides later and links and all these types of things, is just let you know that everything Amira and I are sharing today, we think falls under the doctrine of fair use. Renee Hobbs, again, has done a number of different books and articles, webcasts, including this one from ISTE, talking about educators and students and the fair use rights that you have to use existing copyrighted material, and then how your own rights as a creator are important as well. So as we shift into a conversation here in a moment about resources from the public domain as well as Creative Commons, just know that it is okay, and in fact encouraged for us to flex our fair use rights. Again, that could be a whole other 45-minute webinar. We don't have quite enough time to delve into it deeply at the moment, but if you have questions and want to share in the audience Q&A response, I can try to answer them a little bit. But for the moment, we're going to move forward, and I'm going to turn it back over to Amira here in just a moment. The idea is that we are going to look at a variety of different places and sources where we can gather information from. My quick comment here is to tell you that, you know, when you're getting ready to create video, there's actually a lot of stuff already out there. And the sources on this slide, including the Library of Congress, and in the center, the icon for Wikimedia Commons, the Internet Archive, as well as sources like Vidivo and Pixabay and Unsplash. There are lots of places where you and your students can go to find existing public domain materials. Now, you still want to probably cite the sources and give credit to where you got these materials from, but there are absolutely no other restrictions on them. You can use them in instructional videos. Students can take this information and remix it into their own video productions with many of the tools that we're going to be talking about a little bit later in the webcast. So as a place to start your searching, and as a place for students to get some inspiration, I would definitely recommend some of these sources. But now we're going to talk just a little bit more about Creative Commons. And like I said, for that, I'm going to turn that back over to Amira.
Thank you, Troy. So as Troy was mentioning, these are some resources that are made available for us to access Creative Commons sources. So here we have the first one on the left side. That will be by creativecommons.org, and it's essentially not a search engine, but a search portal that leads to third-party search engines that have filters to be able to access free use resources. Those were the first two. Then on the right, you have Google Advanced Search, which you can filter your search by, in the tools section, by accessing free to use images and resources. And then the last one at the bottom is Open. It's Open Professionals Education Network, and it's essentially a database that has links for pictures, videos, even lessons, lectures, music, all royalty free. That can be a source to also use. And the next slide.
And again,
Go ahead.
Yep. Well, I was going to say, and again, before we kind of head into the tools, I would just reiterate something that I've heard Renee Hobbs say a few times, is that there's a slight difference between copyright and citation and academic honesty. Just because something is a fair use and that it's a copyrighted item, or even if it's a Creative Commons or public domain item, you have to think about your legal rights under copyright, fair use, public domain. But then we're always trying to teach our students about academic honesty and citation and making sure that they're keeping track of their sources. Now, again, we're not quite going to spend a whole lot of time in this particular presentation talking about way to document sources and keep bookmarks and things like that. But again, just know there are a variety of places out there where students can find existing media, where you can find existing media. And now we're going to share a number of different video types of tools that we can use to actually engage in the creation process, which is where I think things get really exciting. So yeah, Amira, take it away. Tell us a little bit about screencasting.
So yes, you're right. This is where it gets exciting. This is where we start doing. So screencasts are essentially pages or tools essentially where you can create a recording of your screen. You can include a webcam. You can include voiceovers, and depending on the tool that you use, there are handy spotlighting mouses or drawing on the screen itself. And I believe I found benefit in this tool because it allows for students to gain access to something, to information that you are trying to give to them, but it gives them the ownership, and it puts the learning into their own hands, where they can be proactive learners, where they can pause and rewind and fast forward and go back and replay a concept that they're learning. This is not to say that this is, it's just about flipping the classroom and that's it. It's about simply giving them access to information. In addition, I had to, for example, teach teachers about certain tech tools that we're using. And the unfortunate reality is that I can't be with a teacher one-on-one all the time. And so instead of waiting to give them that information or to meet with them, I create screencasts of different tools that we're using in school. Or for example, when we first launched the G Suite tools, I used it as a way to compile a list of screencasts where I shared with them, where they can go in their own time, in the comfort of their own home or at work, where and at their own pace, where they can watch these videos. And then when I meet with them, I can customize my time with them. So if they had specific questions, we can maximize our time together that way. And that goes for the students as well, that when they have access to something that they have control over, I think when it's face-to-face, then our conversations are much more meaningful and much more impactful because it's based on their needs. Another example where we used screencasts was to give parents direction on, for example, Google Classroom. It was the first time we launched it for some of the grade levels, and parents were nervous about it. And so sending them a screencast showing their students' view of Google Classroom and explaining the tools also was a way to inform parents without in a way where I can reach them in a mass form without having to worry about doing one-to-one meetings with each parent. And some of the tools that we recommend that you can play around with, the first one is Screencast-O-Matic. And that one's interesting because you can add royalty-free music directly into the screencast. The next one to the right is Screencastify, and that's with your Chrome extension. And that one's an easy way to use. It uploads directly to your Google Drive and can be uploaded to YouTube. And CaptureCast on the bottom is one that I use. It's a simplified version of the two up top. However, it is a Google Chrome extension and can do the same, can be uploaded to your Google Drive and to YouTube and to Vimeo.
Yeah, and I would just add here really quickly, there are a number of other screencasting tools that you can use. In fact, I just learned about one recently called Loom. It kind of integrates with your Gmail. There are a number of different things out there. I've heard teachers have fairly good success with Screencastify, especially because it integrates so well with Google Drive, and you can create your recording. It's shared on Google Drive. If you wanted to provide feedback to a student and just share that link with that one student, that would be a possibility for using screencasting. And again, I also think we can invite our students to create the screencast as well. So how could they, say, reflect on a project or talk you through their writing process or do a think aloud of a website that they're reading and making decisions about what to click on and where to go and things like that. As Amira said, a lot of these are web-based. There are also some programs you can use. Camtasia is probably an industry standard. It's a little expensive, but one built-in tool, at least on the Mac, is QuickTime. QuickTime, I learned just about a year ago or so, this neat little trick. If you plug your device into your computer, if you have an iPhone or an iPad, you can plug it in, and then in QuickTime, again, if you have a Mac, you can open up the file menu, go to create a new movie recording, and then you can select from that little arrow next to the record button to drop down and say that I would rather than record from my FaceTime camera or just do a regular screen capture, I want to capture from my iPhone or my iPad. My guess is that there are probably similar ways to do these types of things on Windows machines, but for those of us who are Mac users, I just wanted to make that note available. I had tried some screen reflector tools and other things like that. Never quite had the success that I had hoped for. And then someone cued me in and said, "Have you tried out QuickTime?" And I said, "No, I have not yet." So sometimes it's just these little things that we learn about that are really useful. So the next kind of genre of tools or ideas that we're going to be looking at have kind of loosely been called explainer videos. You've probably seen a bunch of these online in different places, and they take slightly different formats, including kind of interactive whiteboards and images, kind of kinetic type, moving from one place to the next. But the one that I always kind of go back to and look at as kind of a mentor text for explainer videos would be from the Common Craft show. Lee and Sashi Lefevre started Common Craft, gosh, well over 10 years ago now, I'm guessing. And they had the little paper cutouts on the whiteboards with the markers and the drawings. They've evolved a lot since then, and certainly you can go check out their website to see a number of different ideas that they've shared over the years for creating these explainer videos and how they use the cutouts and things like that. So I think they're great mentor texts, and they're a place where you could go and look at how well crafted, no pun intended, explainer videos are actually created. There are a number of other tools. Most of them are freemium in the sense that you log in, you get signed up, you get started, and then, of course, you've got to pay a fee after so many minutes or so many slides or so many images or so on and so forth. But here are a few that you and your students might consider. We've actually got 2 slides worth here. I've had limited experience with Powtoon. I've tried it out a little bit. I've worked with some teachers who have used it and some students. Seems to generally be fairly intuitive in terms of the interface. So I would recommend Powtoon. Vyond is the new name for what used to be, as of last time, I was looking through these slides a few months ago, but just checked again this week. Used to be called Go Animate. Now it's called Vyond. Again, very similar type of interface where you can add animated characters and a number of different features like that. Video also has a similar type of interface where you can add animated characters and so forth. So I've seen each one of those in action, played around a little bit with each one of those, and had some success with helping teachers collaborate and use some of those. And then another slide full of a few tools that I personally haven't had experience with. And I'm going to pause here in just a moment to see if Amira has thoughts and comments she wants to add on to this explainer video genre. The other ones include Raw Shorts, Movely, and Video Scribe. And again, I would just say that you play around with these, check them out. They all have limitations in terms of what they're able to do. They're all kind of a freemium model where you only get so much, and then you get to the end of so many minutes and suddenly you have to pay, or you've exported too much or whatnot. So it's not perfect. We know that we're always trying to look for free resources for educators. These you might have to look at a little more carefully to make sure you're making the best decisions. Amira, what thoughts do you have about explainer videos? Have you seen other educators use them, or have you had your students use them?
Yeah, so it's has a similar concept to the purpose of a screencast. I think anytime you provide students with tools where they can express their learning or provide reflections is a beneficial way. And I feel like when we give when we put the tools in the hands of the students and give them time for that, it has a different experience, and I feel like the impact is greater than just doing a cold call in a classroom. It provides them with the power to be creative and express their understanding or their reflections or their questions in the way that they want to. And that's why I find benefit in them.
Great. We have a question on Twitter here from Kristen, who said, what ideas do you have for organizing a digital library of screencasts? I was about to tweet back and say, for me, I would think making playlists in YouTube would seem to be the most accessible and where do you create casts? Do you embed them on web pages? Do you share them in different ways?
Yeah, so I agree that with the playlists, those have been helpful. Most of the things that are internal within our school, we keep as unlisted in YouTube as just a safety precaution. And otherwise, we use Google Drive, and so we have specific folders to organize them.
Okay, so yeah, maybe YouTube, if that works for you, Kristen, that would be helpful. And actually, Amira, we're sticking with you. You're going to tell us a little bit about some of the webcam recording tools that you use to help your students reflect and do some more formative assessment. So go ahead.
Great. So web recording is another tool that I believe empowers students to express, like I said about the previous video, the previous tools, express their learning, express their understanding. I think the most valuable thing is to create an environment and create platforms where students can express their voice, and that voice can be then amplified based on how we share it. I've found that when students know that there is an audience, they are more willing to be authentic, and they take ownership in what they're going to say. They no longer view it as just another assignment. I think they see it as something that is much more meaningful. Web recording enables them to record their faces, and I feel like when we see each other, more empathy can be built and better understanding can be made. So there are a variety of tools that can be used to achieve this, and again, we're just listing a few options. Something I've been using recently from last year is Flipgrid, and I've kind of added the two hashtags in this slide. So Flipgrid essentially is a video platform tool where participants, students, teachers, or community members can post video recordings. And I found this to be quite powerful because, well, number one, it's very user-friendly, but number two, it allows for that the capability of video. And I feel like seeing somebody's face and seeing their expressions and hearing their tone is powerful than potentially just reading words. Of course, there's value in words as well. However, it adds another layer of personalization when you get to see their face. This year, Flipgrid is free. And a feature that they do have is called Grid Pals. And something that I value as an educator is seeking any opportunity where students can extend their learning and extend that their reach to each other beyond the classroom. And so the more global we can get that, the better and the greater the impact is. So Grid Pals allows you to connect with other teachers across the globe. You can log in and basically put in your location information, the subjects that you teach, and your ways of communication. And other teachers can search and find you, and you can decide to connect however you want. Another way, a hashtag to follow is which is Flipgrid Fever, allows you to generate creative ideas. I feel like the beauty about being an educator is being among a community of educators who are so willing to share resources and information. And through that hashtag, you can see a lot of really great ideas of how to use it. The other piece of Flipgrid is that not only is a student posting a video, but the replies are also in as a video. And with that, I've found with all these webcam recording tools is that it also teaches this level of high level of communication and digital citizenship and how to potentially give constructive feedback and reflections. And I feel like eventually it creates a safe space to, again, for students to be their authentic selves and to be receivers and givers of information for each other. Moving over to Padlet, it's essentially a virtual bulletin board, and they've advanced in what it offers. And so initially, I would describe it as a virtual wall where you can post post-its, virtual post-its on it. But now you can post images, upload attachments, you can link to other Padlets, and you can also post videos on there. I've used it as a way to crowdsource information. So for example, our students write an essay every year. It's called How to Grow a Loving Heart. And I've shared it with parents initially in the beginning phases before they start to actually write the essay. And it becomes a place where students and parents can share inspirational videos, can share stories of people around the world who have learned how to grow a loving heart. And it becomes this crowdsourced resource of this, of beautiful, inspiring messages and stories that the students end up not only using for their essay, but they actually are inspired, in their lives. And the going down is the recap tool, which I personally haven't used. However, I'm aware of it, and I'm excited to explore it. It's a question-led tool that's augmented by video. So it's essentially a place where a teacher can post questions and students can post questions, and it becomes this forum where you're exchanging conversation, and it can be video can also be added to that. And the last one is Seesaw, which is simply put is a digital portfolio. Our lower elementary school uses this often, and again, it allows for ease of use of posting video and images and work that has been completed, and has actually been used as a way to communicate with parents on a daily basis. So there are different features with each type of tool, and based on your comfort level and your use, I would suggest exploring them.
Yeah, and I will just piggyback really quickly. I am teaching a freshman writing class this fall, which I volunteered for and I'm actually enjoying. It's kind of nice. I normally teach a lot online at the master's and doctoral level, and I just had my college freshmen do a Flipgrid reflection on their first major project. And I totally agree with you, Amira. They bring out their personality in those 1, 2, 3 minute videos on Flipgrid in ways that you would never see in class, and it was a lot of fun just to listen to them and to enjoy that. So again, yeah, I think Flipgrid right now currently free. Padlet is a freemium model. I believe Seesaw is a freemium model. My last understanding of Recap is that it was free, but they may have moved to a freemium model too. So we'll have to double check on all of that. We're going to quickly now make a transition into this conversation about using video and building the assessment right on top of the video. So there are a number of tools that you are able to use to import a video and then to create basically a quiz over top of it. So again, thinking about Bloom's taxonomy and where we're at and what we want students to do, yeah, certainly there are times where we just want them to be at the knowledge comprehension level to understand and remember. So we can share a video and we can build a quiz on top of it. I've had a little bit of experience building with Edpuzzle. That one, you find your YouTube video link, you bring it in, you can add in multiple choice questions, short answer questions. You can also record your voice and give a little bit of an interlude or kind of say, okay, students, as you prepare to watch this next segment of the video, you might want to think about X, Y, and Z. So I found Edpuzzle to be fairly useful in that perspective in terms of annotating and then also building the assessment into the project. I have not played with Play, Pause It or Vizia, and I'm assuming that they work in very similar manners. The other kind of hack or tweak or workaround that you might be able to do is now to bring a video into Google Forms. So you can actually embed a video in Google Forms, and then you can start to play with the quiz features in Google Forms. And also, I think the neat thing about Google Forms is that you can use their branching logic. So for instance, depending on exactly how interactive you wanted to make this, you could take a screencast that you created or another screencast that was already out there or a TED Talk or whatever you wanted to put in there. Put some questions in there. I've seen a teacher take that, create the quiz essentially, and if the student gets it right, they go on to the next question. If they get it wrong, they go back and then you can watch the video at that exact point and try to take the quiz question again. Now, obviously that takes a lot of production time and I don't think it would be for a lesson we would do every day. But if it's a pretty key concept and it's something that you would want to share, you have a lot of flexibility within Google Forms to embed video, create that branching logic, use the quizzing features. It's pretty neat what we're able to do nowadays. Amira, did you want to say anything about any of these tools? Have you had experience or worked with any of them with your students?
I'm excited to try the branching logic actually in Google Forms. So I haven't tried that yet, but that's something that I want to explore.
All right. Well, great. Well, knowing that we're moving right along and that we've got a lot more to share, I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about video creation tools.
Okay. Thank you, Troy. So we've talked about tools where students can, there's something that has a platform that's been already created for them where they go in and they press the record button and they're able to record their reflections or their learning. But now it's about getting further into the creation phase. And I'm always talking to my students about being the owners of their own narrative. It's about writing their own story and not giving a chance for somebody else to write their story. And I feel like the power of video, again, can make that a possibility. We're all downloading videos. We're all watching YouTube and consuming. And so if we are providing resources that are created by us and where we're sharing our own narratives and our own learning, what better way to own our own story? And so through that, video creation comes in, and that's where students need to learn, need to ask questions about who the audience is. What kind of tools do I need to record my message? What will make it the most impactful? So it's no longer just about the tool, but it's about what's the input that they're going to put into that tool in order for their message to be amplified and for it to be meaningful to an audience and for their message to be clear. And so the first resource that I wanted to share is it's from Australia. It's ACMI's Filmit resource. And here it's an online resource where they offer lesson plans and tools for anybody who may be interested in filmmaking. So they offer modules based on storyboarding, screenplays, script writing, and it's for people who want to teach it and students who want to learn it from having no experience to having enough filmmaking experience. So it offers a range of that. And then in terms of the digital tools for, obviously these are just to mention a few, YouTube Creator Studio is basically you have your own YouTube channel and it allows you to do video editing through that. WeVideo is something that I feel is quite user-friendly. Many teachers use it, and it allows students to create videos. Adobe Spark is, I see as more graphic design, and it allows for students to play around with different design alternatives and creating a video through that. And OpenShot is a open source video editing software where students can access different editing software that is for free and available to them. I think the biggest part is when students create the video from start to finish is that they are challenged in exploring their creativity. They are obviously not going to film school and not, they're not specializing in this yet. We are putting them in a position where through trial and error, through failing, through making mistakes, through understanding that it's worth it to express their views and send their message and share their story and their learning, is that they're being challenged. And in the end, we get to see a form of expression that perhaps we wouldn't have seen through other forms. And I feel like that could be really powerful. Troy, did you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I would actually. So again, I'm fortunate enough to be teaching this freshman writing intensive class. We're exploring digital culture and the internet and having students create their digital narratives for this first part of our course. I've had students use WeVideo, Spark, and OpenShot, and of course we kept iMovie off this as one because again we know that's Mac specific, but all of the tools offer different possibilities, and I think going to the point that you just made, we want them to be creators. So going back to those original opening slides, where can we invite them to download existing stock footage, public domain and Creative Commons license footage? We're going to talk in a moment about how they can get other footage with that copyright and fair use. Where can we borrow some footage from other places? But yeah, I think that your point is well taken. I think that we often see students moving into the creation process, but we don't always give them a whole lot of time. And yeah, they could, a third or fourth or fifth grader could make an Adobe, heck, even a second grader could make an Adobe Spark video in the span of an hour, and it could probably be a pretty good video. But if it's something that they are immersed in and they go back to and they revise and they get feedback, it's that kind of digital writing process that happens over time that I think makes it more valuable. So OpenShot, again, is very similar to iMovie. It doesn't have all the features because, again, it's open source. And you have to record your audio separately to bring that in if you're recording your own voice. But again, it's a pretty nice tool. And I would just add with Creator Studio, it seems like YouTube is always updating Creator Studio, but now they do have some nice editing tools built right into the web browser that you're able to use as well. So I'm going to keep pushing forward because I know we're getting close to the end, and we have a few other tools we want to share, and then we want to wrap up and have a few closing comments. So the next kind of genre of tech tools is it consists of tools that you can use to annotate and actually carry on discussions quite literally on the video itself. So we know that video is very powerful, but we also know that, just if students are in an online discussion forum, whether that's in Blackboard or Canvas or Google Classroom or whatever, and they're away from whatever it was that they were reading or watching or listening to, it can kind of have a disconnect. So there are a number of tools that we can use to actually build threaded discussions on videos themselves. So a few of them that I know of and have tried include Vialogs, Video Ant, and Now Comment. In particular, let me kind of zoom in and talk about Now Comment. So this will allow you, both with video and with text, which is why I like it, because it's a versatile tool. You can import a YouTube video, and you can also copy and paste things from other websites or from a Word document or whatever. But what's neat is that you can have the video there. You can insert a comment on the whole video, or you can kind of move to the exact point in the timeline where you want to insert a comment. So what I will often do is say, okay, at 1 minute and 15 seconds, students, as you're getting ready to watch the next 2 minutes of this video, I want you to pay particular attention to X, Y, and Z. And then at, 3 minutes and 27 seconds, I'll put a question in and say, okay, now that you've listened to this, tell me what you think, or how would you respond, or what would you say about, and then go forward from there. So all of these tools allow you to embed something right on the timeline and to be able to have that really isolated and focused discussion. And again, I think Vialogs is produced by Teachers College. VideoAnt is produced by University of Minnesota. Now Comment is produced by an independent organization called fairness.org. I believe they are all open and available and free for educators to use, which I think is really important. And I'm just going to keep kind of plowing through here really quickly. We'll get to this idea of video capturing or borrowing, if you want to be euphemistic about it. But remember, again, we talked earlier, under the provisions of fair use and copyright, you as educator and your students, certainly as learners, have lots of fair use rights for parody and satire, as well as for analysis and critique. So let's say that you find something that's out there. You see something on YouTube. Now, whether or not that person, whether it was posted by the original copyright owner, the corporation that produced the movie or the music video or whatever, or someone else posted it. Now that's an interesting copyright question in and of itself, but let's say the fact is that the material is out there and your students want to pull a short clip to be able to incorporate into their own video project. There are some online converting tools, but one that I've found especially useful as of recent changes to some of those other online tools is this open source program called ClipGrab. So what you can do on a Windows or a Mac is that you can download ClipGrab. And if you're using Windows, I would encourage you to kind of drill into the downloads there. They have both a bundled version that's got some other adware and additional packages, or you can just download ClipGrab separately. I encourage you to grab the separate one. With Mac, I didn't get any adware or anything like that through my download. So you can use ClipGrab, and then you can plug in, you take the URL from the YouTube video or the other video source, you put it in there, you say, I want it as just an MP3 audio file, or I want the whole video file. You download it, and then you have something that you can upload into your own video creation and play with. If you're looking for our alternatives to ClipGrab, or really to any of the tools that we've talked about, you need something that's only available on the web, or it's going to run on a Chromebook or something like that. I wanted to toss in one last little hint here, and that is a favorite go-to website of mine is called Alternative 2. In fact, many of the tools that I've found in constructing and revising this presentation over the past many months include tools that I found from Alternative 2. So with that, I know we're closing in on our final few moments, and I'll put our contact information back up here. Amira, what are your final thoughts? Any last words you want to say before we turn it back over to Jessica?
Thank you, Troy. I think it's about making the learning process relevant, giving them a place to express their voice, and it turns the learning and the information seeking back on them, and it's no longer about the educator being the source of that, and they're now amplifying their learning and their knowledge for everybody else to benefit from. So these are opportunities and tools that can make that happen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Troy and Amira, for your work today. I was like crazy going to Twitter and just bookmarking all these amazing resources. A lot of them are new to me. So thanks for your time in curating all that and sharing your work with educators. And I'm going to preview our next session for our viewers. So if you can bear with me for just a moment while I screen share. We have some, let's see here. We'll do this one. We have some wonderful sessions coming up in some workshops coming up in session 2. Just a reminder, though, that workshop 4 with Dana Stakowiak has been canceled, but we have some other amazing workshops going on during session 2, so be sure to come back and check those out in about 15 minutes. And we'll come back here. Let's see. Okay, beautiful. So again, Troy and Amira, thank you for your time today, for your work, for moving all of us forward. And viewers, this is your chance to take a break, grab a snack, and join us again at 12 Eastern for our session 2 workshop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.